That was a bit of a disaster, wasn't it? I had set something up on my phone which meant that I should be able to... Oh my gosh, it looks like I've got hair sticking out the top of my head now. That's brilliant, isn't it? I'd set it up so that I should have been able to record it that way and then save it, but obviously it's not working. So I hope Jerry, Natalie and Tracy, you're back and that haven't annoyed you too much. So, belly fat in the menopause. Yay, Jerry's back. Spare tyre, muffin top, meno belly. The three things that I hear people talk about when they say that they're putting on weight. So perhaps the things that I hear people saying are, I'm eating the same food, I haven't changed anything, I'm doing the same level of movement as I always did, but whatever I do, I'm just putting on weight. The weight is piling on or trickling on, but there's nothing I can do about it. So first of all, what are you not going to do? I think that's quite important because if I can stop people doing the things that they're trying to do, that may in itself just help. So first of all, don't panic. There was a piece of research done fairly recently, I think it was called the Body Logic Survey, that studied women in their midlife, and it came to some conclusions that the more educated women were about what was going on in their midlife, the less they noticed their symptoms, which is quite interesting actually. But I think if you understand that what's going on is actually quite normal, then that in itself reduces your stress, and we'll come on to that in a second, and eliminates some of the problems. So first of all, don't panic. Okay, it isn't just you, and it does settle down. The other thing not to do is go on some kind of drastic diet. People will say to me, I'm not eating anything, I'm having one Rivita a day, and I'm still putting on weight, and I can't get rid of it. Well, actually, that's the worst thing that you can do. Trying to reduce the food down to an absolute minimal isn't going to help matters at all. So don't go on a low-calorie diet. Don't start counting calories. Actually count your vegetables, count them in, not them out. And don't do anything where somebody says, we'll replace a meal with this kind of a shake. Anything like that. Now, from a running coach perspective, you're going to find this quite unusual. Don't do steady state exercise. That means exercise where your heart rate goes up and it just stays at that same moderate heart rate. And that tends to happen with endurance running. So marathon running is known to be one of those things that for some people, they actually put on weight. I've done 5 marathons in my time, and I can honestly say for the first 4 marathons, I probably put on half a stone to 3/4 of a stone. Now, there's 2 reasons for that. One, because steady state cardio does not burn calories in the same way. In fact, it induces calorie on-putting. High state, Hazel. The other thing is that you're in this some kind of false idea that you're burning so many calories when you're marathon training that you can eat whatever you like. And I remember turning to pasta, and actually not being particularly thoughtful about what I was eating. I've learnt a lot more now. So I told you I was going to give you 3 things that would help you with this belly fat in midlife. And hi, Tracy, you're back. And I'm following the 3 things line all the way through because I think it's fairly well known that your brain can take on 3 facts at any one time. And if you start loading on too much more information, it becomes too difficult. So 3 reasons why this belly fat happens in our midlife. Glad I'm upright now. Thanks, Tracy. I am not sideways anymore. Number 1, we all know we've got these hormone changes. You've got estrogen and progesterone, and those 2 hormones, when they're doing what they should do, help prevent fat being laid down and staying on in your body. When your estrogen and progesterone levels start to go down, that naturally occurring weight control starts to lose its natural effect. So as your hormones start to fluctuate, you have to work harder to keep your weight stable just because your hormones are doing what they're doing. So that's number 1. Number 2 is that often in our midlife, we start not sleeping very well. We're very stressed, we're very busy. Because we're very stressed and we're very busy, we stop moving as much, maybe stop going to the gym. and your muscle bulk decreases. If your muscle bulk decreases, then you need less calories to run the engine, to run your body. And you haven't been aware maybe that your muscle is going down. So you're still eating the same amount of food as you used to, but your calorific requirements have actually reduced. So less muscle, lower metabolic rate, but your weight goes up. So there's two things: hormone changes, less muscle. But the third and most important thing, particularly for us midlife women, hi Amanda, is to tell you that stress will lead to weight gain. Simple thing. Stress will lead to weight gain. Now, a lot of people say to me, but I'm not stressed. I've got a nice life. I go to work. And let me tell you this. Stress can come in forms of having a stressful job, having relatives and children that you're handling, deadlines you've got to meet, things you have to do. But stress can also come in the form of sitting in a draft, being on a diet, having to catch a certain train. Your body responds to stress in a way that your brain may not even realise that that is a stressor. The changes in your hormones are a stressor for your body. So we're constantly surrounded by stress. Now, there's a good book that's been written, and I think it's something like Why Zebras Don't Put On Weight. So a zebra is down at the watering hole drinking his water, and the zebra has got a fight or flight ability just the same as we have. Zebra sees tiger coming. Tiger comes over the hill. Zebra thinks, oh, got to get away from here. It's fight or flight. Some other animals might go into fight mode. A zebra thinks, no, I've got to go away. Because that zebra's got to rush away from whatever it is it's nervous about at that time, the zebra produces cortisol and adrenaline. They are the drugs that enable you to deal with that stress at the moment. But as soon as the zebra has escaped from the tiger or the lion, the zebra returns to normal, and therefore he doesn't put on weight. We, on the other hand, don't return to normal because our stress isn't a lion coming over the hill or a tiger coming over the hill at the watering hole. Hi, Fiona. Our stress is a constant. The way that I describe it, it's a bit like my computer, which I've actually just closed down, which was why I was a little bit late signing on. On my computer, generally, I've got about, 12 tabs open? That's better for the neck. 12 tabs open. So I've got this and that and holiday things I'm trying to find and research. So I've constantly got things going on my computer, and that's the same in our brains. We have this running joke, don't we? We're constantly multitasking. Well, in effect, we are constantly stressing. We're constantly doing that multitasking. So we're constantly in fight or flight mode. Now, it takes a while for the adrenaline and the cortisol to come back to normal. Adrenaline comes down quite quickly, within hours. Cortisol actually comes down over a matter of days sometimes. So by that time, by the next day or so, we've got another stress, haven't we? So we're constantly up there. So you want to know what to do about this. It's all very well me telling you the background, although I think the background's important. There are three main things, back to those three things again, that you can do about this midlife weight gain. And obviously one of them is going to be about food. It's always going to be about food, but I'm going to talk to you about putting food in rather than taking it out, because I think at this time of our life it should be about good things rather than denying ourselves things. It's also going to be about movement. You're not going to get away from me not including movement. And it's also about lifestyle choices. Okay, so let's start with number one, and I'm going to keep it really simple here. Food. I'm not a vegetarian. I'm not about to be a vegetarian. Fiona, I think you're vegan or vegetarian. Hazel, I'm not sure about you, but I love vegetarian and vegan food. I just don't feel for me that I need to be limited to that kind of food. But what I'm going to say to you is try making vegetables the main event on your plate. We were brought up with the meat and 2 veg thing. I was brought up with my 3 sausages. I'll come back to that in a second. And then the baked beans or whatever it is that goes with it, the bit of chicken. You're a pescatarian, Jerry. So try and make vegetables the main event. So I'm vegan, if you think about a corn on the cob, have that as your main event on the plate and other bits around it. have a ratatouille as the main event on your plate. Goodness knows you can have roasted cauliflower or bang bang broccoli or whatever it is you like. Try and make your vegetables the main event on your plate. In doing so, there will be less space for you to put in the high glycemic carbs that you may be craving. Because when you are running at a high stress level, our cravings go up, and our cravings go up for carbs and they go for sugar. Flexitarian, Hazel. Maybe that's what I am, a flexitarian. I didn't know I was a label. So make vegetables the main event and put as many of them on your plate as you want to. Avoid high glycemic carbs. So white bread. Hi, Sita, nice to see you. White bread, white rice, white pasta. Try really not to have them very much at all. Brown bread basically has just got a good PR company. It's white bread that's brown, unless you absolutely know that there are good multi-grain grain in that brown bread. It's still something that you should be keeping an eye on how much you're having. You can try putting buckwheat, quinoa's full of protein, those sorts of things on your plate to give your carbs. Try mashed cauliflower instead of mashed potato. I think that's really good. Cauliflower rice, you can buy it already done if you want to. So try looking at avoiding the high glycemic carbs. The other thing that may be interesting for you, and I'm working on this at the moment, there's a lot of research that actually was done on mice, but the transfer over to humans really works, that says that eating within an 8-hour window means you can actually change nothing. Eat exactly what you're eating now, but keep it in an 8-hour window, and your weight gain will either stop or go down. So they tested 2 different sets of mice, and they gave them exactly the same amount of calories within a 24-hour period. One set of mice were allowed to eat whatever they wanted, whenever they wanted. And the other set of mice were only given their food within an 8-hour window. They both had one of those spinny roundy wheels things, but they said the same calorific load. The mice that were given had an 8-hour window to end up eating their food, ended up putting on muscle, losing weight. I think I also remember that there was an increase in their bone density and their cognitive function went up just from eating the same food over 8 hours. Now, it's not for me to tell you how to do that. I've had to think quite hard about how I do it. I do it probably 3, maybe 4 days a week. And I'm finding at the moment that that's quite an interesting way for me to eat. And before you go saying, oh, I can possibly go more than 12 hours without food, just try it. One of the things that I think is interesting is you will go to eat a meal, and if somebody knocked on the door and said, quick, come and do this, you'd go. Before you went and that knocked on the door, there was that knock on the door, you'd think, oh, I'm starving, it's lunchtime. But actually, if you get distracted, it's quite easy to go without something that you just eat out of habit. So there's my food thing. More vegetables, avoid high glycemic carbs, and maybe consider an 8-hour window. Okay, lifestyle. Portion distortion, and not replacing meat with processed synthetic vegan meat alternatives. I totally agree with you. Something that's made to look like a burger. No, you don't need something that looks like a burger. So, portion distortion. When I was a little girl and I was given fish fingers, I was given 3. When I was a little girl and I was given sausages, I was given 3. Shredded wheat, 2. My brother had 3. We've got this idea in our head how much should look right on our plate. But if actually I only give myself 1 sausage, if it's a particularly good sausage as well, you know what? I'm actually quite full. So without realising it, you can fall into habits of how much you expect to see on your plate. And if you took away some of that food, you'd be absolutely fine. And I know that because this is point 2. Often when I make a meal, I have enough for my husband and I and anybody else who's in the house. And what I've got left, I pack into little tiny lunch boxes, enough that you think, well, there's not very much there. But the next lunchtime, 2 days later, or David takes to work or something, we find that that small meal is enough to keep you going. So in fact, if it was enough to keep me going at lunchtime, it's probably enough to keep me going in the evening. And that made me to start re-examining my portion distortion. So look at what's on your plate and pack up leftovers before you go coming for seconds, which brings me to my third point. Research has been done that says if you serve food on your plate at the point of serving it and then take your plates to the table, you will eat less than if you do the beautiful serving out at the table. Because what we do is we do one on my plate, and I'm just going to finish that mouthful. And you don't think of that as calories going in. So that's that food, lifestyle. Final thing here, movement. Non-alternative, 30 minutes walking every day. All that will do is maintain the muscle you've got now. 30 minutes walking every day, somehow and in total. You don't have to do it all at once. Second thing is bringing in some kind of resistance training with weights or Dynabands. I've put lots of ideas of resistance training you can do. It's the thing that people probably avoid. Certainly the people who I talk to often say, I can't do that, I've got bad knees. You don't have to be squatting. You really don't have to be doing stuff that's making you in pain, but you do have to be using resistance. And the third thing, and the thing that I really didn't get, is something slow and relaxing. So those of you who have been following me for some time know that I've been doing yoga for 5 or 6 years. I didn't get how that was going to have an effect on weight. And I now understand it's not about burning calories, it's about reducing your cortisol. And that slow reduction of your cortisol has a long-term massive effect on our ability to maintain a steady weight. So if you're not already doing it, the restorative exercise, as you said, it's slow and relaxing, yes. If you're not already doing that restorative exercise, look for it somehow. Now, yoga may not be your thing. You might be a slow, gentle swimmer. God forbid it's wet and cold. It doesn't work for me. You might be a slow walker, which is great, but make sure you do your faster walking too. You might love, as I know somebody I know quite well with, she does mindful cycling. So mindful cycling, you're not worried about the stress of the cars, you're perhaps going around a lake, you're not stressed about cycling in particular, it's mindful. I don't mind what you're doing, but it needs to be mindful and calming. Okay, why is all of this important? Just so you know, I'm nearly there. Midlife weight gain is not about getting a thigh gap. It's not about looking good on Instagram. It's about your long-term health. When you're stressed, your blood gets thicker. That adrenaline cortisol response actually thickens your blood. And that's because your body thinks when you're stressed, perhaps you're about to be eaten. And if you have a massive bleed, it needs to prevent that massive bleed. So if your blood is constantly thicker, your risk of heart disease, which is already higher because we're in our 50s, goes up even more. You don't want that. That's no good. We need to be avoiding things that are stressing our heart. When you're constantly stressed, your inflammatory response, inflammation in your body, is greater all the time. That's going to cause more disease. When you're constantly stressed, you sweat more. We're already sweating more as midlife women. It's uncomfortable. You don't want to sweat more. When you're constantly stressed, you crave sweet, sugary foods, which means you put on weight, which means you get more stressed. So you need to break that cycle by feeding yourself stuff that makes you think you're full up, all those lovely vegetables and the non-sugary stuff, and then you won't crave that sugary food. And when you're constantly stressed, your digestion slows down. So you get constipated, potentially. You might have urinary problems. And if you're constipated, you're going to put pressure on your pelvic floor, and that's no good for us either. So how do you know if you are stressed? Maybe you're thinking, well, is that me? Have you gained weight? Are you craving sugar? Constantly hungry? Do you find you need a coffee or some kind of caffeine fix in the afternoon because you're getting really, really down and you just need some more energy? Are you finding that you need wine or gin and tonic or something in the evening just to relax? You can't relax without alcohol. That's a big sign of stress. Are you having digestive problems? Have you got wind or bloating or flatulence? No, that is wind, isn't it? Grumbly tummy. Aching neck and shoulders. People don't realise that in our midlife we get these aches and pains, and this constant tension in your neck is indicative of constant stress. Do you find it difficult to concentrate? Do you sit down to do something and think, what was I doing? Would you go upstairs and think, what did I go for? Difficulty concentrating. Finding it difficult to go to sleep, or more likely waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning, bing! What's happened? What's happening? I can't, and you can't go back to sleep. And then when you finally get back to sleep, it's about 6:30 in the morning and you've got to get up. Okay, or perhaps you're depressed. So they're all some of the signs that's telling you that perhaps your cortisol is out of whack and that it's time to do something about it. The trouble is, what people do potentially can make it even worse. So they turn to alcohol. Well, that's not going to help with weight gain and cortisol. They turn to caffeine. I've just told you about that. Somebody very close to me turns to spending money. She's always buying things. She's waiting for that little dopamine fix that says she's bought something and she feels better, but not for very long. And that's been going on an awfully long time. So spending money. Binge watching TV. Well, yeah, that's great maybe for a short period of time, but actually binge watching TV, you're just sat on your bottom even longer and likely to be having something to go with it, and the crisps and the sweets, or just overeating. So all of those things, the things that we turn to. So if you can turn to something slightly different, like the things I've mentioned, food, movement and lifestyle, that's going to be much better for the long term. So how do you know where you're at now? I'm going to leave you with something to think about. No, two things to think about. Rather than thinking about your weight or your calories or your BMI, your waist to hip ratio is a very good indicator of where you are now in the body shape response. I did my tape measure up with me. So you might like to write this down, or I'll pop it down afterwards. Measure your waist and then measure your hips. And then divide your waist measurement by your hip measurement. And the result that you should get should be around 0.8. If it's different, it's indicative that possibly you're becoming a little more apple-shaped than you want to be. And that's not because we want you to look like anything. It's indicative of heart disease, cognitive problems, increasing your likelihood of cancers, etc., etc. So you can look at where you're at now and think, okay, it's time to do something about it. So there we go. Some of the reasons why you might have this mellow belly. Some things you can do to see if that's you at the moment. Some reasons or things that you can try to stop this mellow belly. And if you want me to help you a bit more, I've got this course coming up in September. Now, I'm not very good at this bit. I'm supposed to do this and tell you, you need to come and see me, and I'd love you to come and see me. So I'm going to take a deep breath and say I'm starting an online course in September. It's the Midlife Makeover Transformation course, and over 6 months, one thing a week, I'm going to support anybody who'd like to make some big changes. Big changes take a long time, but the menopause can last 10 years. So it makes sense to take this really slowly. I think I'm going to say Hazel now if Hazel's still on. Hazel's coming on as one of my guest bloggers and experts to talk about using aromatherapy in the menopause. I've got mindfulness experts coming on to teach us about using mindfulness in the menopause. I've got nutrition experts talking about that side of it. So during that 6 months, a wide range of, hi Homer, a wide range of experts coming in to talk to you and us about other things. I'm passionate about the movement and the exercise and the nutrition. I'm not very good at mindfulness. I need to learn as much as anybody else. So I've got a discount code for people who are watching here on the Secret Midlife Makeover page. So the code, you need to reset your mindset not on that. It's not salesy. It is. It's horrible. I hate it. But anyway, I'm going to do it. So there is a code. The 6-month course is 300 quid, but it's not for you lot. It's £99 because I love you if you use a certain code. So the Midlife Makeover Transformation course is on my Midlife Makeover page. I'd love you to tell anybody about it. If you know anybody who's stressed, wired, tired, doesn't understand what's going on with them, and wants somebody who's not going to tell you to go back to bed with a box of Maltesers and a bottle of wine, hi Lindy Lou, because that's not going to help anybody. I need and want to help you. Thank you, Sam. Just what I needed to hear. I will look forward to seeing you soon, Zita. You've been missing from my life. So I'll pop the code if you'd like to join the course in September. Thank you for listening. I'll save this and post it so that hopefully you can watch it later, because I know this has been my longest live, 24 minutes. I normally stick to 10. I'm going downstairs to have the most amazing, beautiful, just cut out when you said there's a code. I haven't put the code yet, Fiona. I'll write it down. I'm going down to have the most amazing mozzarella in Westrum just near us in Sevenoaks, there's a new little delicatessen that's opened by an Italian man who's sung to us today, and he's got the most enormous peppers and beautiful mozzarellas. So I thought, right, tonight it's roasted pepper and sliced mozzarella, which is lovely. So thank you very much for joining. Thank you for popping in and saying hi, so I know you're here. That makes it so much nicer, and I look forward to seeing you all very soon. Love you loads. Bye.